testing on how to kind of curate these whitelists so that it's not like a first come first serve, like mint as many as you want kind of thing. So that was sort of that solves the distribution problem for UNATs, right? And there's been a lot of testing and a lot of people have been showing up to do the testing on it. So there's gonna be like a lot of hype around it. I think people who tested receive like this crown ordinal or something like that. And then also I wanted to say the way you mint it, right? Like it's sort of like a PvP on screen when it's time to mint. Like you'll see all the different blocks that you could mint from, and then everyone's going to be selecting the block numbers just based on their speculation of what the traits are going to be on the collection, right? So if you think about NatCats, the block numbers that had, call it like repeating numbers or like a palindrome or something like that, those wound up being the more rare type of traits for the NatCats. So I would like speculate for the Royals, it should fall like similar to that. Although I did hear they said that they're going to kind of like mix it up, so it might not be like that. But that would be my default like logic on it. So I would be going for a block number that's like has multiple of the same digit or something like that, where I think it might trigger a rarer trait on my royal. um so yeah, I do think, and then also the other point I was going to say is that, look, the attention is that we talk about attention economy all the time, right? And at a time there was ordinals were red hot, runes got red hot, we had the halving, runes was red hot. Now runes has cooled off considerably, so the timing of this like could not be like more perfect, where they worked the asset, the privileged asset or minting of the asset listing, so that it can't be, I guess, like I said, like just bought up by 20 users, right? So like it's gonna have a really good distribution. The timing is perfect. Nothing's really going on in Bitcoin right now, and this is gonna shine a light for UNATs. Um, it's gonna shine a light on the Block Runners YouTube channel, and then ultimately it's gonna come back to NatCats. So I just think it's really set up and really lined up for a good run here.
I love it, WAF, 100%. And I mean, I definitely, share your excitement for the project. Like, I think it's a really cool one. And I think that it has been teased for so long. So there should be a lot of people covering it. And we're just hoping that there's money in the ecosystem to go around. I think that's all I meant in terms of it being successful. But I totally agree with you. I mean, it's for sure going to mint out. There's no question about that. I love all the alpha you're sharing in terms of, just the intel on the project, how it's going to be dropped. I think that's super good alpha for, look at NatCats for the patterns that were popular. The stuff that's super rare is like the recurring numbers. If it's just all fours or all fives, all of those NatCats are super rare in the collection. So would definitely recommend the same for Royals, whatever that looks like. But yeah, I mean, 100%, we're on the same page with the thesis, WAF. If Royals do well, that should definitely come back to Nats in a meaningful way. And to your earlier point of just thin floors, the NatCats floor has been thinning. It really took a long time for it to get where it is now. I know that the price itself is still pretty low, but we've definitely seen that it's only going to take a few sweeps to move that floor considerably. So especially when I'm looking at my landlord just dropped off some quarters. Let's go. Um, in terms of like floor sweeps coming in, I think that there's a really good risk reward on NatCats. How much further they could fall. Obviously, any project could go to zero, but they're like at the spreadsheet levels, like we've talked about last week. So I feel really good at a risk reward for NatCats because I easily think they could go back up to zero point 0.05. The floor is prime for them. Few sales and we're there. Versus what's the downside risk? Maybe they go down to like 0.025. So I really love NatCats as a play here.
Honestly, I really do, and I hate to have that bag bias, and that's why I try not to talk about it as much as we do. But NatCat seems like a fantastic play right here.
Dude, for sure. It's hard not to have bag bias, but I mean, it really does. I mean, I keep finding the urge to want to buy like puppets here, or I was looking all weekend at node monkeys. I have my eye just glued on this one. I see Tino in the crowd repping a node monkey, and he's just making me FOMO even further. But just breaking it down again, it's like every dollar that you spend, you should be considering, what am I risking here and what can I gain? So, in terms of blue chip projects, something like puppets, something like node monkeys, you could still very easily take a 30% haircut on them. I'm not saying that's what I want to have happen. Obviously, I don't, or what will happen. No one really knows what's going to happen. But in terms of just like pure risk reward, it really seems like Natcats. I don't see a scenario where they go to below 0.02, right? Like at this point, the people have been holding for so long through all of this. I think I've seen them stay strong. They have a very prevalent community on Twitter. We're slowly getting that distribution up. So this is a point where I would really start to feel comfortable of like, okay, if it goes worst case scenario, maybe I lose like 0.005 per nat cat, but best case scenario, I can make, maybe zero point 0.1 per cat if we return to its highs. So I just love the risk reward there.
Yeah, like let's just say you're in the market for a puppet and you're debating it at point two, like that could get you probably like six nat cats, right? So now you're talking about a 6 to 1 ratio of nat cats to a puppet. I mean, I don't see that scenario that kind of ratio holding up like quite long. I think you get to 5 to 1, 4 to 1 pretty quick, and that just means like there's probably a lot more gains to be had acquiring nat cats versus puppets. Even though they're both down bad, like don't get me wrong, they're both down. You both probably still make money, but I mean, if I really wanted a puppet and I wanted to kind of earn my way towards a puppet, maybe I just buy a bunch of nat cats and then flip them and until I get a free puppet out of it. And I think 6 to 1 ratio. I think that comes down to 4 to 1 or even 3 to 1, like relatively fast. And with this Royals mint coming up, that might be an actual a great opportunity to, even if you're not like super bullish on Nat Cats, just as a play, to make some Bitcoin profits and then like flip it into like a collection that you are bullish into. Like if you're bullish on puppets, maybe it's a cost savings, but by doing it that way.
For sure. And there's definitely been some periods of volume coming in on Nat Cats, and it seems like they've firmly, reclaimed the top 10 on the leaderboard every day here. Which is great to see, just as someone who does have that bag bias. And I mean, I just personally really like Nat Cats. I think the founder is really cool. I think the concept is really cool. And I do think it's one of those historical first projects. So I'm absolutely with you. And regardless of whatever collection you might be eyeing, I still do think the move is just, really be glued to those listing feeds. It is crazy some of the stuff that people have been listing at the floor. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, Waf. I was like bummed I was not at home. Someone listed a laser eye with a alien earring. Laser eye floor for those at home is like 0.088. Alien earring trait is like 0.13 floor. Not a lot of sales though. They listed it for 0.03. Crazy. Just an absolute gave it away for free. And then someone listed an alien fish yesterday, and I think there's, I want to say 14 in the entire collection. Earlier in the year, those were selling for like zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.6 Bitcoin a piece. Someone listed one yesterday for 0.13. I was like, oh shit, I gotta get on that. Put some bids out for 0.09, and it just sold for full price at 0.13. But an absolute steal. I mean, you just think about the fact that a month and a half ago, Nat Cats were at a 0.14 floor. I was buying, commons for that price. So if you still have the conviction and you're still zooming out and you're thinking, hey, ordinals are going to get that second leg up. Again, this isn't financial advice for anyone. If you don't think they're going to get the leg up, don't do it. But if you think there's more in store for ordinals, this definitely seems like a pretty good consolidation point for you.
Yeah, I like that a lot. As far as other mints, is there like any that's been on your radar? Like for me, it really just has been Royals, and I haven't really been paying too much attention to like other upcoming mints.
No, definitely have not been. What I will do here is just share what JD shares with us. JD, man, can't sing his praises enough. He's just the absolute man because he's always just tuning in and doing market research on everything for us. But he messaged us before the shows and he gave us a nice little calendar of mints to come for the week. So I haven't had a chance to go through these WAF. I don't know if you have, but let me just drop them here in the Ordinals Runes chat for everybody, and you can go through these. But just know JD takes his time going through these mints. So yeah, here's a little calendar of stuff to come. Definitely do a little bit of digging and some research into these projects. But I'm with you, WAF. I haven't seen anything other than Royals.
Yeah, I mean, I know JD sent this over a little bit earlier today. And I also didn't have an opportunity to look at it, but yeah, I see you dropped the list. If anyone's interested, do that research. Feel free to do it. I'm not bullish or bearish on any of these other mints. I just don't know enough information on them. Uh, I've also been in IKB world, so I'll have to admit that I've been more focused on that.
Yeah, my IKB experience is I know Bitcoin, but that is about it.
So, any other collections on your radar? I mean, I know we've kind of touched upon pretty much, I think, a lot of things, and this might be one of our shortest shows, unless we get another hot topic to discuss. But yeah, is there anything else you've been looking at?
Not really at this point, wow. I would say the biggest thing that's standing out to me is really low volume in runes. So it's still something I've been shying away from. And just have really had to have the restraint on not buying in here. I do think there's some good buy opportunities across the space, but as always, it just comes down to, you know, what are we doing as traders? And if we're just buying with the expectation of it can't stay this low for this long, there has to be a wave incoming. It is sort of us trying to predict the future. And there's just no telling. I mean, today's the perfect example. You have someone like Roaring Kitty coming back after 3, 4 years to talk about GameStop again. The stock's way up. We don't even know if it's actually him or not. There's just so many random catalysts that pop up in the space, and you really can't predict it. And then on the other side, we've seen this year with the World War III threats and just stuff going on in the world, anything can happen at any time to change what's going on. So I think you just have to be very careful entering or exiting any of these positions. And I said exiting as well because I'm sure a lot of people are down on their ordinals bags from a few months ago. It might be really enticing to sell here. If you need the cash, always, do what's best for you financially at the time. But I think it really could go anyway. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing I'm just seeing. We're seeing a lot of low volume. So there's nothing that's really, in my mind, an immediate catalyst. But I do think that at some point this year, we would likely get a catalyst that would give us at least a little bit more life than we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and in some of the past shows, we've talked about the macro a little bit, and we don't really dive too deep into that. But um, I do think the CPI is coming up on Wednesday, so that could be like holding people back on seeing whether or not has inflation subsided. Are we going to move up, or if we're overheated still, is that going to cause a market drop? Like, so that thing is still sort of up in the air, right? It's kind of like 50-50 on how that's going to go down. So I think we have that. And then also, you know, we were talking about room puppets and how that price has gone down because of the burn for the rune pups, like the actual rune, the world peace uh, token. So Magic Internet Money, I believe that burn is also coming up pretty soon. I think within 1 week. Um, and the Wizard BRC20 price is holding in the $4.50 range. Um, what do you think of that? Like, do we see the same action, or do we get bullish? Like, what happens here? Do we expect a dump on the Wizard price?
It's really hard to say. I think Wizard, I'm a little less concerned with. I will say, I don't know. I saw in chat today, some people were saying it's supposed to come within the week. I don't really know where that's coming from. I'm in the Wizards Discord. I've been following Maven's bot on Twitter. To my knowledge, there's been no announcement as to how that's going to happen yet. Um, if you have any other information or if it's announced somewhere, definitely let me know as well as the audience. But to my understanding, that's still a TBD. There's no like confirmed date on Wizard. Um, but I think it's just a different play, honestly. And you know me, WAF. It's never to FUD. This is just my own research, but I had the rune pup, and ultimately the process I went through was just, is rune pups coming from the puppet community themselves? I don't think it was. I don't think it's from Lay Papel, the founder of puppets. I do know that Ansem, really notable influencer in the space, and he kind of caused pups for the first time to just absolutely moon. They were doing pretty well. I think they were like $3 or $4, and then he live streamed and tweeted about them and just sent them to the stratosphere. So I do think there's a lot of community love for that project, but I think with Wizard it's slightly different. Because with Wizard, it's like the guy who started the phrase magic internet money. It's like the OG from the Reddit ads back in time. So for me, the magic internet money play, it seems a little bit safer. Obviously, it's all like ordinals and drawings of cartoons and funny sayings. So I don't know if safer is the right word, but I do think it's a different play. I think that with this, it's a little bit more concrete. They've already announced the dynamics of it's going to be airdropped or a burn mechanic. So 95% of the supply will go to Wizards holders. So we can kind of calculate, what's the distribution going to look like, how much you're going to be holding, and at what market cap. With pups, it was a little bit different because it was like the pup that you burned, you got like 17,000 runes. So I'm not entirely sure. My biggest thing was just with rune pups, it was community driven and it is like technically a derivative. With the wizard, it's all under the umbrella of the official guy who ran this. So I feel a little bit more confident in wizards than I do pups. It's not to throw any shade on pups, but that's just kind of how I am viewing it.
No, I appreciate the perspective because I was looking at them as relatively similar. So I do appreciate your perspective on it. Whenever there's like a big event around something, it's always, I think, a elevated level of risk because you don't know which way it could go ultimately. So I do hope they push back this the rune just because runes are not doing so well right now. And I wasn't aware that it was just a rumor because I heard the same thing that it was coming within this week, not from like any official like source, but it just seemed to be like the common knowledge that it was coming this week. So maybe I'm wrong on that. Um, maybe if Ansem like won a fight or something, like Pops would still be doing well. And then I know we got like Arthur Hayes kind of supporting Magic Internet Money, so I do like having those influencers involved, but at the same time, they might have made their money already, and we might be holding the bag. But I think for now, on Wizards, if it's a buy, hold, or sell, what would you say you would categorize it at? Would you just categorize it as a hold?
I would definitely categorize it as a DCA. So definitely a buy and a hold if it's at the price point you bought it at. I mean, I've been DCAing it. I think I'm going to continue to DCA on it. There's definitely a few trains of thought. Like one of them was just wait until runes are hot again. But I do think with Wizard, I mean, we've seen multiple times just throughout the past couple of months, like the price action is crazy on it. Even now, there's days where it will be low $4 and it'll go up to, you know, mid $5 the next day and then right back down to 4. So there is definitely a swing trade there as well if you are the type of trader who swing trades a lot. I'm still trying to just get a good cost entry on it because I personally think the magic internet money thesis is hard to fade. In my mind, it's just like it is an OG meme. It's to me what Pepe is for, Ethereum, right? That's like such a prevalent meme on the chain. It's just reached its all-time high earlier today. Shout out to Jake and Bake show in the morning. Cross that in lifetime. But yeah, like Pepe's at its all-time high. Magic Internet Money is like the oldest, like arguably the technical first Bitcoin meme that existed, going all the way back to 2012. So it has, in my mind, a lot of staying power with Bitcoin OGs. So I feel really comfortable in that as opposed to some other stuff going on in the space. So it definitely makes me want to go ham on it. I might be a little optimistic because runes as a whole could just completely flop and never come back. And that's part of the thesis, right? Like runes have to do well for Magic Internet Money to do well, but I'm holding hope that one of the catalysts we're going to see is a Binance listing, an OKX listing of a rune. People are going to hopefully be able to more easily buy these runes in the future. And then if that's able to happen, I think the sky's the limit. But, comparing markets, like one of the things that allowed Pepe and WIF to be successful is they're able to be exchanged on Coinbase and Robinhood. So that access to hundreds of thousands of more users, huge catalyst for meme coins as a whole. I think we need that to happen for runes for them to be commercially successful. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think we need dog go to the moon to pretty much like lift the entire rune space, because now it's at about $232 million market cap. I think it was probably as high as what, in high 300s if I'm not mistaken. And then Arctic is really taking a dip. I mean, they're probably down like 50% off its high. Um, Same thing with Pups World Peace. I mean, that's probably down like 50% off its high as well. Decentralized, I just don't even know what happens to decentralized. Like just like as a collection, as a everything. That thing just really tanked. Um, yeah, I do agree with you on the Wizards though. Like I do think Magic Internet Money is an OG meme and it should do well. And maybe that's the catalyst. Maybe when once that comes to runes, maybe that's what triggers runes bull case again, right? Because 'cause if that's not going to be it, then it's probably going to be waiting around for the rune cycle again. So that could definitely be a catalyst. I hope they hold off on doing it. Let UNATs have their turn, and then bring it back to runes later.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a great segue, Waf, because I definitely thought this was going to be a short episode, but I do want to take it to some more abstract concepts in terms of just macro. And, I think it's just important for all of us to talk about our experience in the space as a whole. I think what is a catalyst is a really great question because we've seen different catalysts throughout our course of Web3 where it's been institutional money that comes in and then finds its way into the hand of retail investors. There's been stuff like stimmies back in the COVID era where they just gave people, every person got like $1,400, at least in the US. So now in terms of catalysts, I think the big question mark is like, where does the money come from? Because if something like Magic Internet Money came out and was successful, I definitely do think it could be a catalyst because if people start making huge 5, 10 X's, there's going to be people posting on timeline and it's going to be Runes Mania round two, right? Just all of your favorite influencers shilling, talking about runes. Money's going to move from one place to another. So maybe that comes from ordinals, maybe it comes from Blast, who knows? But I think what we hope for, at least in the Web3 space, is a catalyst of money that's not in the Web3 ecosystem yet. And that's where I'm not sure where we're going to get that kind of catalyst from. Maybe that's Bitcoin hitting 100K and more retail investors coming in. But I think just the question of what is a catalyst and like what does that really entail is a good one. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts as to like, is one project being successful a catalyst or does it need to be a huge inflow of cash from somewhere else?
I really think the catalyst would be the Bitcoin price appreciation. So I know last week we had talked about there was another asset management company that like disclosed that they had $1 billion in Bitcoin, like 1.3, and they had 460 billion under management. So I just think like as people file their Q1 disclosures, which will probably wrap up soon, and then going into Q2, we're gonna see a lot of these mom and pop wealth management companies come out and say like, oh yeah, we got 50 million in Bitcoin and ETFs, and we have 30 million and 50 million, all this stuff. And people are going to start realizing like, oh shit, people have been like secretly investing in Bitcoin and like, basically hoarding their bag and not saying anything until now. We need to catch up. And then once that Bitcoin price starts like going up like a ladder, just really going up, that's the FOMO kicks in, and then people who feel like, oh, I missed it, I need like a leveraged bet off of that price action. That leads to altcoins, and that leads to NFTs, that leads to ordinals, that leads to runes. So I think that's the catalyst still. Like without the Bitcoin price going up, I just don't see like how the Bitcoin ecosystem could really do well. Like right now, it's probably like player versus player PvP. And we need that influx of cash to come in. And I think the catalyst will be the Bitcoin price and just people like kind of finding out that my next door neighbor owns Bitcoin and I don't own any Bitcoin.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy if my neighbor owned Bitcoin and I didn't. I'd be pissed. No, but I definitely appreciate the perspective there, Waf. That's I think FOMO 100% is a good thing that you pinpointed there, and then definitely I think it's going to tie down to Bitcoin pricing. I did want to also ask your opinion, just talking about these general concepts. What are your thoughts on the roles that influencers are playing now in terms of inducing that kind of FOMO and maybe steering the market? Something that I thought was crazy, and I had not thought of this beforehand, but there's this one influencer, Kook, Kook, on Twitter, who posts a lot. He's kind of come up recently as sort of the anti-Ansem. He just shit talks Ansem a lot. I think to your point of Ansem losing that fight, there's definitely seemed to be a notable shift of like Ansem used to instant pump every single bag. Now it seems like maybe that influence is waning a little bit. I mean, no shade on Ansem. He's still got a ton of followers, but this guy Kook came out, and he was just fading the shit out of pups. He was just like, I'm fudding pups, I'm fudding pups, I'm fudding pups. And then came out a few days later and said, someone paid me $50,000 to FUD pups. So it's a really interesting dynamic we're getting into now where people are paying influencers money to FUD other coins. um it's curious. I don't know if we have conversations about it enough, but influencers, they do have a lot of influence in the space. So I'm really just curious, Waf, if you think they are playing a role behind any of the pullback we've been seeing, if you think they're going to play a role on the resurgence of ordinals here. Any thoughts?
I didn't catch that post that he was paid to FUD puppets. That's interesting. I do think it presents some risk and opportunity. Well, if you're able to kind of like catch the wave and ride it, then like that's awesome because you'll capitalize on all the gains. But I think FOMO, like we talk about FOMO, and I think fear is like a bigger driver of emotion than greed is. So I think like first you catch the FOMO, then you get greedy. And I think if you catch FOMO on these influencer call outs, you're gonna get wrecked, right? You're not gonna get out in time because you're gonna try and ride it. So like at that point you're so late that it only could be a short-term trade. You better not be holding it like longer than that next tweet, right? So I don't like it because obviously insider trading and like those concepts like pretty much don't exist in the crypto world. We don't know who's colluding behind the scenes, what they're shilling, what their bags are, fudding things to get in. Who knows what? We have no idea, right? So it does present risk. I think normally when we see influencers talking about things, it really should be a top signal, and you should be getting out. Um, I think if you play it that way, yeah, you might miss some plays, but if you play it like that, I think that's probably the best way to play it.
Really well said there, Waf. Also, I'm just catching up on the voice hangout chat. For clarification, it is not our Kook. We have a Kook who's in MVHQ. It is not them. Kook, if you're listening, apologies. I should have clarified that immediately. It is not him. It's Kook Capital on. Is it wait? Is Kook Capital our Kook? Now I'm getting a little confused. There's a Kook. Someone dropped their card in voice hangout chat. That's the person who's been paid to FUD, but is not our guy. Um, Kook. But yeah, it's an interesting relationship. And I do want to pose to the audience here. If anyone wants to come off mute, give their thoughts on influencers. What are your thoughts on there being an influencer cabal? I know that's sort of like a funny meme or just sort of a bit of a joke at this point in the community, but there could absolutely be merits to people who are just paid to shill the same project. So I'm curious if you guys think that's a real thing or just conjecture from the masses.
I think it's real. I mean, you can see it more in Ethereum when you can see like the wallets that are kind of somehow linked to each other and, that forensic analysis, which, I don't know if they have that on Bitcoin. You probably can figure it out, I guess. But I think in the ETH world, there's a lot of really good, um, detectives and people who do like that on-chain forensics that could figure out who's who and what they're doing. But obviously Bitcoin is bigger money that's got to be playing here too. So um, there's definitely a cabal. I think there's no doubt about it.
Heard it here first. And I mean, as always, audience, feel free if you want to chime in, hop off mute. If a cabal member is someone you're related to, if you got mob ties like that, feel free to let us know. It's a safe space here. In the meantime, we had T Money Big Bucks asking you and I, WAF, any thoughts on holding a bitmap emporium, or do you think there are better things to buy? Saying he might sell one to buy a Nat Cat. T Money, my man, I would say NFA. I definitely am not a bitmap emporium holder. I tried to be, but just missed out. I would take a look at what the alpha in the emporium is. To my understanding, that's sort of like an alpha group that talks about ordinals. So I would just base it all off of what is the alpha they're providing. If there's airtight alpha, I would always pay for that. Like if that's bringing you a lot of value in your day to day, it's helping you find other trades. I personally wouldn't sell that. But if you're in there and it's just a bunch of noobs who aren't really giving you any intel, if you haven't made any money or a single trade based on the group, and you're finding that MVHQ has all of that alpha already, I think you could probably spend that capital elsewhere. But that's not financial advice. I don't know your full situation. So, I think only you can answer that question, but that's what it would boil down to for me.
Yeah, that's good advice there. I would say Bitmap Emporium is a pretty good alpha group. I haven't really been using them lately just because I just haven't been like on the lookout for mints and stuff like that. But they were one of the first people to talk about Natcats, so I got to give them that.
There you go. Yeah. So I hope that helps, D Money. All right. We are just about wrapped up on this one, but I do once again, it's MVHQ, y'all. It's a you know safe space in here. You can just pop off of mute if you guys want to throw a question out in the chat. We'll answer anything under the sun here as long as it's related in some way, shape, or form to ordinals. But yeah, anything else, Waf? We'll give the audience another chance to either off mute or answer some questions. But other than that, anything else top of mind for you?
No, I think last week we were talking about like what we were most bullish on, and I think at the time last week I said I was pretty much on runes. I was still bullish on RSIC, um, rune pups, and magic internet money, and then also from a ordinal perspective, I was looking at frogs. Um, don't think much has changed. Those are probably still the things I am currently bullish on. As far as like what am I looking to add this week? Just the royal for now, and maybe another room puppet, but that's about it. How about you, Rosbus?
I'd say there is a very high likelihood I leave this week with one more Natcat and a little less BTC in my Unisat wallet. So definitely looking to add a Natcat here. Um, I just can't stop buying rares, WAF. It's a problem. I don't think I need to do it at all. I definitely think there's way safer plays on the floor, but I'm for sure going to be putting out some bids for alien fish and maybe some laser eyes here. I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled, but just seeing that laser eye with the alien earring go for under zero point zero 0.04 yesterday was just like filled me with something. I don't know if that was FOMO or greed, but I definitely want some of these rare Nat Cats because I do think that's a ticking time bomb. Is the best way I would put it. I think the only real issue stopping them is low holder distribution. And to your point earlier, I don't think I addressed it, but that's awesome that Royals is going to have really good distribution of holders. I think that's one of the crucial elements of any successful project or coin. So yeah, I definitely think Natcats, once they can continue distributing holders, is going to just fly. But it's really not too bad, honestly. It's a little under 50%, but given how cheap they are, I would imagine most people who know about them own more than one. Like I own a few personally. I know you also own a few. So I definitely can understand it not being a higher count. But yeah, man, I think Nat Cats are just built different. Still love them and love seeing them go up the charts. So I'm definitely gonna be copping one of those. And I'd say the only other thing that I'm really bullish on is Wizard. I still really want to buy those blue chips. I don't think the risk reward is there as much as I wished it was. I would love to own a Node Monkey. I think they're super cool. I personally think they're gonna dominate whenever the bull market returns, but just looking at them, I stand to lose maybe zero point 0.1 Bitcoin. I would say absolute worst case scenario, but um, I just not sure like where I would be selling. So I think Natcats has a better risk reward. So I gotta play that.
Yeah, I love that play. Nat Cat, sometimes I just want to go and sweep like 20 and then I prevent myself from doing it. I did hear like the number one Nat Cat holder is still kind of slowly distributing and selling. So I mean that's been kind of keeping a cap on the floor price, but eventually run out, right? It's almost like the grayscale ETF with the Bitcoin selling. Eventually, just not gonna have any more to sell, and then the price is gonna go up. So I think that's the case with Natcats. Um, just getting in at a 0.029 is just a lot easier than buying something that has a point 0.2 floor or a point 0.3 floor. On those collections, I'd rather wait till the trend bullish is confirmed back on ordinals so I could catch like a nice zero point zero 0.05 gain or a zero point 0.1 gain. I don't need to catch like the absolute bottoms on a collection that's zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.3 personally.
Yeah, 100% WAF. And I mean, I do definitely want to again leave this episode just with a word of caution to the audience. Like, um, we've seen in crypto, floors can fall 80, 90%. So just because puppets are at a fraction of what they were, like the whole ordinal cycle is still only 4 to 6 months old. So just think about when puppets broke up to 0.14 and people were cheering and celebrating, right? Like that's still a local top. They could easily retest that for support. So I think there's a decent chance things go lower here. I would definitely just continue to monitor listings. Still seeing a lot of listings on Node Monkeys and Pups come in. I think that makes sense. There's going to be people who are papered out. But there's strong communities and collections, and ordinals as a whole are still super young. So I think you just got to give it some time to continue to appeal to more people. But yeah, just continue to play your bankroll every single day, get your cash in the places you want it to be, and waiting on the sidelines and not making any moves is a totally viable strategy. So I hope at no point in time anyone listening feels like these shows are meant to get you out there buying stuff. It is meant to just talk about the market, but I think sitting still and being patient, an amazing strategy, and traders who are way better than me can do it way better than I can do it. So props to you if you're just sitting still here.
Yeah. My final note: I received all my ordinals back from the Merlin seal. So I didn't realize the rune puppets were also distributed, and that could have been the reason why the floor price went down. So that actually makes me a little bit more bullish on it than I was previously. So just wanted to add that the Merlin seal ordinals should be all distributed back to your wallets by now.
Beautiful. Well, as always, man, an absolute pleasure. Starting off the week right with some ordinals, and it seems like a pretty nice day for crypto. We're getting a big bounce on Bitcoin, so hopefully we can see the tides turn in our favor this week. But if not, we'll be back here 7 days from now to figure it out.
That's right. Fingers crossed. All right, Ross Boss, been a pleasure. And just so the crowd knows, I think we've locked down Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern for Boss Dogs moving forward. So you can kind of just pencil that in, and then if there's any updates to the time, we'll let you know in advance.
Yep, 5 p.m. every Monday. We'll be here. All right, y'all. Until next time.
On that note, see ya.